Are you ready to win? You're tuned in with Staar, Pastor Dab, and Gabe for an hour packed with encouragement, strategies, and resources for families with children with special needs. You're not alone on this journey. Stay tuned because you're ready to win.
All right, you guys.
All right. Good afternoon.
We are ready to win.
Yes, we are.
We're live here in the studio. This is Staar,
Pastor Dab,
and Gabe, baby, and I'm sure you guys hear him right here.
We got a live one here.
A live one here. And he's in the studio. We're so excited to be here. We want to thank you guys so much for tuning in again for this week's edition of Ready to Win. And for those of you who did not hear about our show on last week, we invite you to go and listen at www.ilovethetruth.com and find the Ready to Win show on the podcast. But we're excited. We're bringing you the best information, you guys, right here to help you and your family along on your journey if you have a child or family member with special needs. So we are so excited, and we want to thank you so much. And today we have on the call Jeremy from the Family Cafe. He's going to be on live with us, Jeremy from the Family Cafe. And so we're so excited. We just want to welcome Jeremy and thank Jeremy so much for participating and coming online with us today. So, Jeremy, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Thanks very much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeremy. And we're just going to start our call off. And we want you to just tell us a little bit about you. Tell us who you are and what you like to do for fun, what you do for a living, and then we want to hear all about the Family Cafe.
Sure. Well, that'll be easy because those two things are definitely tied together in a major way. So, my name, as you mentioned, is Jeremy Countryman. I'm the program director here at an organization called the Family Cafe, located in Tallahassee, Florida. I'm originally from New Jersey, been down here in Florida since about 2003. And been here working with the Family Cafe since about 2005. I have 3 awesome kids, 2 of which have some special health care needs that make them unique. So that's kind of where I get my connection to the world of people with disabilities and the experience of what it's like to parent a child with a disability.
Wow.
So what we do here at the Family Cafe is basically, we have an organization that's run by family members of people with disabilities that are serving that exact same audience.
Wow, that is so amazing. So I didn't even know that about you. So, and we've been coming there for the past 4 years to the Family Cafe, and I didn't even know that. So that's so awesome. I just love to hear the stories and just to hear how everyone got started, and what makes them so passionate about what they're doing. Because when I was there this last year, I was so inspired by all of the stories and just hearing how you guys, I think I heard you guys said you started with just a round table, just sitting around a round table and, just to see what it's grown to today. So tell us a little bit about the Family Cafe and how it got started and exactly what it has grown to today.
Sure. I'd be happy to. We've been around since 1998. And our founder, who is still the president and CEO, is a woman by the name of Lori Fahey.
Love her. She's so awesome.
Those of you who have come to the annual Family Cafe, you will have seen her there. And we'll talk more about what that event looks like over the course of the show, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. But basically, the concept behind the whole organization grew out of her experience and the experience of other parents that she talked to, where they... there were things in life that they definitely knew how to do and were easy. If they needed a service, they could open the phone book and find it. When it came to trying to navigate the service delivery system for their child with a disability, it was a little more complicated. How to navigate things like Medicaid and Medicare and getting services from the state agency for persons with disability, et cetera. Trying to interact with their school systems and work on individual education plans, things like that. There wasn't sort of a handbook available or a lot of guidance or people you could go to kind of figure out how to navigate that system. So that's where the organization got started. The idea was just, hey, why don't we bring together a lot of people who are walking the walk in terms of being a parent of a child with a disability or a person with a disability of any age, get everybody together in one central location, bring as many resources together in that location as possible, and let people, learn about the things that they need to know about specific to their situation, connect with other families and network with them, learn from their experiences, and build that, positive peer relationship so they don't feel so isolated.
Right.
And really, get a sense that you're not alone in this. There are resources out there. There are, ways you can make your daily life better and increase your access to education, employment, all those kinds of things. It's just a matter of sometimes knowing how to get access to them. So the conference started off in 1999. There were about 1,200 attendees there at that first annual conference. We're about to hold our 19th one this coming June 16th through 18th in Orlando. And last year at the 18th annual conference, we had more than 10,000 people registered. Mm-hmm. So it's really, really grown over the years. And I think, we've tapped into a vein of people who are looking for reliable sources of information and also looking to connect with an event and an organization that, as opposed to being someone who is just serving a particular group of people, we are that group of people. So when you're talking to the Family Cafe, you're talking to people who are in the same shoes that you're in your daily life.
That is so, so powerful. And that's what makes it so real. And you guys are so transparent and always so willing to help. And I mean, like I said, we've been coming for the past 4 years, and we have been so, so blessed. Our journey doesn't feel as lonely. We've met some great friends along the way, and it's just been amazing. And, when I came there because I wanted to, of course, be able to sing at the, sing the national anthem, which I love to do every year there. But I did not know how blessed we were going to be by being able to meet so many other family members and parents and just people that are living this life, the same life that we live day in and day out. And it's just such a wealth of information. The hallways are full of energy, and and this last year, I tell you, the way that Hyatt just rolled out the red carpet and they had the aprons on and everything, I was just so impressed. I was so impressed. And, I've been to lots of seminars in my life because of I was a Mary Kay sales director, and I went to so many seminars and, for makeup, and, they had the pink Cadillacs out there and all that. Mm-hmm. And now to be able to see seminars that are tailor-made just for families and children and adults that have disabilities and be able to guide them through step by step. What do you do when my kids age out of this system, and where do they go from here? And I mean, just to see that you guys don't leave any stone unturned, it's just amazing. So we have been so blessed.
Try to do our best to include every topic we possibly can. The organization, people often ask, and we joke about it here in the office because we'll sometimes get sales calls from people trying to sell restaurant equipment because we're called the Family Cafe.
Yeah.
So I like to let people know what that's about, and that's also, part of the idea, like you're talking about, families coming together around the kitchen table being the way the organization started. That's kind of one of the ideas behind the name of the organization, Family Cafe, but it's also an acronym for the things that we try to embody and stand for, which are collaboration, advocacy, friendship, and empowerment. So that's how we get that cafe. And I think you're right. When you see people at the event, you realize that it's as much about community as it is about knowledge. It's one thing to go out and get a piece of information or call some number and have somebody say, fill out a form or call this other office or what have you. But when you see that many individuals with disabilities and their family members together in one location, it is really remarkable, and I've been here for ever and a day, as you know. So my first one was the 7th annual Family Cafe, which is in 2005, and we're getting ready to do 19th. So I've been around the merry-go-round a lot of times. Mm-hmm. But I'll never forget that first year, the first time I ever saw the conference, just how amazing it is and how much it blew me away to see that many people with disabilities all in one place at one time, and just to sort of feel the energy of their presence and the fact that sort of their gathering together in itself was a statement about the fact that, we're part of the community, we matter, we belong out here where people can see us, because so many times I think having either being an individual with disability or having a child with a disability, it can be a little bit isolating. You feel like, there aren't a lot of other families like mine. I'm sort of doing this. No one really gets it. No one understands it. And then you come to our event, and all of a sudden you're in this environment where it's everybody, and the people without disabilities are suddenly way in the minority, and it just kind of changes your perception about disability altogether and how it fits into the world.
It's so true. That is so true, Jeremy. And you hit, you just hit it with no one gets it. And a lot of times we feel like no one cares, like nobody cares what I'm going through. I remember, when we started our foundation, it's called the Giveaway Foundation. And I started it just because I'm like, nobody gets the fact that I am having to buy these diapers for a 7-year-old, 8-year-old. Mm-hmm. Nobody gets that. These diapers cost me more than my light bill, and nobody cares because they're not having to do it. You know what I mean? So That's exactly how I felt. So we started our foundation just simply because we wanted, it was out of like, there's no help from me. There's nobody can help me with diapers and wipes. So now every time I look at those diapers and wipes and how we learned the resources that were available and how they're available now to us, and now we don't have to buy them. And a lot of that we learned from coming to the Family Cafe, And so, that's just been such a blessing to our family for that. And I love the stories every year. You guys always highlight different individuals to come and be good guest speakers. And they've been through so many different things, but there's one common thread is that they are overcomers. They're overcomers, and that they are going to make it, and that they can do all things. They can be anything that they want to be. So we're going to take a break real quick, and we're going to let you guys hear this song called Overcomer. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
I made it through. I'm victorious. What about you? I'm an overcomer. I made it through. I'm victorious. What about you? Might have had a hard year and lost all you had. Might have lost a loved one and it left you feeling sad, but you're still trusting and depending on God's unchanging power. And there's one thing you can say for sure: you're an overcomer. I'm an overcomer. I made it through. I'm victorious. What about you? I'm an overcomer. I made it. All you've been through, you're still here to tell your story. People turn their backs on you, but there's no need to worry. That's why you should never judge a book by its cover. When you're looking at me, you see an overcomer. I'm an overcomer. I made it through. What about you? I'm an overcomer. So glad that I made it through. I'm victorious. Oh, what about you? One thing in life we share.
right, you guys. That's Overcomer by Staar Fields, of course. And that's what we've had to learn how to be. We've had to learn how to be overcomers. We've had to learn how to say we're going to make it when it doesn't look like it, or there's no help, or there's no resources. And so I'm so excited to bring you guys help and resources right here from the Family Cafe. And we have Jeremy on today. And Jeremy, we know that it was so important to you to get started with the Family Cafe because you said you have 2 children with unique abilities. But what are some of the goals that the Family Cafe has set?
Well, there are a couple of different ways to look at it. One of our goals, of course, is to continue reaching as many people as we possibly can. We've been around for a long time now. It's our 19th year hosting this event. Even so, sometimes you go out there in the community and you'll talk to people, even people who have family members with disabilities, and they are not familiar with the Family Cafe.
Right.
We're, as they say in the business, a mom-and-pop organization. Mm-hmm. So we have a pretty small staff, just 5 of us here in the office in Tallahassee. So as you can imagine, hosting an event for 10,000 people each year, that's quite a lot of work.
Wow.
And we're always aware of the fact that people with disabilities and their families, it can be sometimes challenging them to find extra money to come to events like ours. So there's no registration fee for families to attend. And we also offer some financial assistance to help with the hotel stay that we can give to as many families as we can afford. But doing all that doesn't leave us with much money to do public relations or advertising or anything like that.
Right.
So we really rely on word of mouth so people know the Family Cafe is out there. This is a place where you can come for resources, information, to connect with other people who are facing similar circumstances to what you're facing. So that's definitely one of our big goals, is to increase the amount of awareness just about what we have to offer.
Right.
And of course, if you think of it in the wider sense, we're very much believers in the idea of people with disabilities living full lives in the community, and the idea of inclusion. So whatever we can do to help address some of the barriers that people with disabilities face in living a life in the community, that's one of the areas that we try to address. So, for example, at our event, we have an exhibit hall. It's pretty big. It's got about 200-some booths. But as part of that event, we have an employment expo. People with disabilities have a disproportionately high rate of unemployment, as I'm sure you know. So trying to bring some employers there to talk to them about how do you look for a job, how do you interview, how do you put together a resume, give you some live practice talking to potential employers and figure out what it's like to be on their side of the table. That's an area we're trying to address for sure. And I'd say another goal that's important to us, and we can talk about this in more detail if you want to, is trying to make sure that we're bringing together a broader coalition of people than just people with a particular circumstance. So, for example, we're not an event that's just for children. We're not an event that's just for Down syndrome or just for autism. We try to bring people from all disability communities of all ages together. Really try to emphasize that cross-disability affinity within that group so we can sort of get a sense that, this is a group of people that is substantial. 1 in 5 people would fit into this category if you write it broadly. So we try to make sure every year we're doing things to bring more people in. I think over the last several years, one of the things we've put a lot of effort into is trying to include the children's mental health community in our larger cross-disability efforts. We have a federal grant that helps us do work around children's mental health here in the state of Florida. So we've included mental health as one of our subject area tracks of breakout sessions at the conference in the last few years. We've had several keynotes that have talked about that theme. So I know I'm rambling now, but
it's great information.
Three of the goals that came to the top of my head when you asked me kind of what we're trying to get accomplished.
Yeah, those are great things, Jeremy. And, I like what you said about bringing all of the disabilities and, everybody together, because, it really makes you more sensitive to see what somebody else is going through, because I think a lot of times we can get so caught up in our own situation or, I know the first year that I came there, my kid was just like darting all the way across he was just like darting like that big giant room was a football field, and he just, with his, he has autism, and so he has, we have to try to give him boundaries, okay?
Yeah.
And so, but then I would see somebody else's kid that might have walk with the little with a walker or have braces on their legs or whatever. So it just really makes you so sensitive to other people, other families, and even like you said, the adults too. What people are going through. I think you can get caught up in your own little box, but you don't want to, because there's it's just a diverse population, and we have to be sensitive to the needs of all of the people. And I think that's awesome that you guys have done that.
Yeah, sometimes you hear about people using the word intersectionality when they sort of are trying to make the point that you can get too isolated in your own particular group when you're thinking about your issues and your rights, be it, based on your ethnicity or your economic situation or your region or what have you. I think at the same time, there's sort of a need for intersectionality just within the disability community. A lot of times you'll see different disability groups sort of thinking of themselves in terms of their specific way they identify. But when you come to an event like ours, you get a sense that, hey, here's a space where there is room for a larger conversation and a bigger tent where we can bring together people with all different types of situations across the full age spectrum and realize that there's something common in all of our experiences, and if we focus on that commonality, all of a sudden it makes us a larger, more significant, more powerful population.
Definitely more powerful, and you guys are making great things happen all over the state, so that is so awesome. So I know they had the sensory room was it the Morgan sensory room?
Yes.
Yeah, so that was really, really cool. For Gabriel, I know he loved that, and that was just that was something, I think that was, how long has that been, like the past 2 years?
I think that sounds right, yes. The way that we try to add in, some different things every year to highlight different needs, or, sometimes we'll get approached by somebody who wants to do something unique and make that part of the event. So we make a space for a lot of things like that. For example, last year, as you mentioned, there was that Morgan Project sensory room, so that gave families an opportunity to look at some unique techniques, some things they could do in their own houses to kind of make the environment more friendly for kids who have sensory integration and sensory processing issues, as many children with disabilities do, especially when you're looking at kids with autism.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we also have our partners from the Florida Disabled Outdoors Association. They do an adaptive recreation room, so they have activities going on there during the day where you can learn how to do some different kinds of adaptive sports, and they have a lot of hands-on demonstrations, that kind of stuff. So that's something that people always enjoy. And another thing that was new last year is we had an assistive technology room. The Family Cafe has a relationship with something called FAST, which is the Florida Alliance for Assistive Services and Technology.
Right.
So we have they have regional demonstration centers all around the state. We run one here in Tallahassee where people with disabilities can come in, try out different pieces of technology, figure out if it will work for them, look at what some of those options are. So we had a room at the conference last year that was just an assistive technology room. It was full of different devices that you could try out yourself, and people there who could describe how to get a hold of them and be able to take them home.
Right.
So, yeah, we're always looking to have, something new, something interesting, trying to look at different sort of niches that haven't been discovered yet within the disability community. It makes the event sort of more dynamic and more fun than just your typical sort of setup where you just have a bunch of sessions and nothing else going on at the same time.
Yeah,
it's a family-friendly event.
And you guys had like what's it like the little prom, or it was a play? It was a play you guys did.
Yeah,
that was a
that
lot
was
of fun
cool.
too.
Yeah, we had an organization approach us, and basically what they do in their community is they have sort of a group of community players that are all people with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
So during the afternoon on, I believe it was the Saturday at the conference,
right.
they had they put on a play. I want to say it was something involving ABBA. I'm trying to look it up right now on my computer as I sit here and talk to you. But yeah, that was really cool too. So we get to showcase sort of the talents and abilities of people with disabilities in ways like that too, which is really cool. While I'm looking for the name of that organization, because I do want to mention them, I'll add that another partner that we've had for a long time is Pyramid Players.
Oh, I see them every year.
And they have
they are awesome.
One up here in Tallahassee.
Mm-hmm.
They have a couple down there in different parts of South Florida, and they have a rock band. So our schedule set up so there's hour-long sessions and like half-hour breaks in between them, so their band will play during those breaks. They also do a lot of visual art and sculpture and jewelry and stuff like that, so they have
that is
that
so
stuff
cool,
on display in the
Jeremy.
exhibit hall. So they're another partner that
Pyramid
we've had for
Players.
A long time. Yeah,
so
Pyramid.
I love them. I know the guys. I always see them and give them a hug. We're going to come right back after this commercial break, but thank you so much, Jeremy. You guys stay tuned, and we'll be back right after the commercial.
WTRJ-FM, Orange Park, Jacksonville. WAYL, St. Augustine. WATY, Folkestone. Listener supported. The Truth.
With SRN News, I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. The U.S. reached out today to its European and NATO allies as Vice President Pence told the Munich Security Conference Washington remains committed to the alliance.
On behalf of President Trump, I bring you this assurance. The United States of America strongly supports NATO and will be unwavering in our commitment to this transatlantic alliance.
Also addressing the conference, of course, was the NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg.
That is the core of our transatlantic bond. NATO is strong because we stand together.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel appealed to the U.S. and others to support and bolster all multilateral organizations, including NATO. President Trump, in offering his weekly radio and internet address, said he was thrilled this week to host the White House Women's Business Leaders Roundtable.
As president, I am committed to ensuring that women entrepreneurs have equal access to the capital, markets, and networks of support that they need, and I mean really need, and it's going to happen. This is a priority for my administration.
The president also hailing a Boeing facility in South Carolina as a sign of steps toward generating more U.S. factory jobs. The president toured the plant where the company unveiled the newest version of its 787 Dreamliner. A powerful Pacific storm blew into southern and central California with wind-driven heavy rains. Los Angeles Fire Department Captain Daniel Curie.
There's going to be a lot of ponding of water on the streets and maybe even some flooding, and they really got to be careful. Probably avoid those areas. Don't drive through them. If you can't see the pavement, you don't know if it's still there.
More than 300 arriving and departing flights were delayed or canceled at Los Angeles International Airport. This is SRN News.
Jacksonville weekend forecast. Showers in the forecast for us this afternoon, high of 74. This night, chance of rain at 30%, low 58. Becoming sunny for Sunday afternoon, highs in the mid-70s. Clear skies due for Sunday night, low of 54. President's Day Monday, again sunshine with highs 78. And for Tuesday, partly sunny with highs reaching 76.
All right, you guys, we're here live with Jeremy and from the Family Cafe, and he's given us a bunch of great information about the Family Cafe, which is the largest conference in the country for children, families, adults with disabilities. And so we're here with Jeremy. Jeremy, thank you so much for being our guest speaker today. And
thank you.
Yes, we're so excited to have you. And we were talking about the pyramid players and how they do their art, and they come out and they have their band right there at the Family Cafe. They perform every year, and they do a lot of other things during the year. And then I know you guys have karaoke out there and people singing. I mean, it's just so much fun from the morning until the evening. It's totally packed. Did you want to talk about any of the other events or any of the other people that participate that you can think of off the top of your
definitely. Head? Well, I went back and found the program from last year while we were on break there. And the group we were talking about before that did the play, they did Mamma Mia.
Mamma Mia, that's
the
right.
Rising Star Performance Arts Group. So it was great to have them. We also have one of our parents who's a Zumba instructor, so she hosted Zumba last year. That was really cool. We also have a singing group called the Brazilian Voices. So they go around singing the traditional Brazilian music, which is really cool. And I would say, this gives me an opportunity to let people know if they're curious about the event. It's hard to talk about everything going on there in this 1 hour that we have here on the radio. I'd encourage everyone to go look at our website, which is familycafe.net. And if you look under the Publications tab, you can find the whole program from last year, as well as programs going back a number of years. So you can look back and you can kind of see what sort of sessions were included, what kind of entertainment things were going on that highlighted people with disabilities, who the exhibitors were, what state agencies were on hand, what sponsors were on hand there to talk to the attendees. So if you're curious, you want to know more about, hey, what does this event look like? What does it actually include in terms of the schedule and the agenda? If you go back there and look at familycafe.net and check out the programs from previous years in the publication sections, that'll give you a real good taste of what it looks like. Definitely.
It is packed, jam-packed from morning to night. And we love it. It's just so much information. And it's just the best. It's the best. It's absolutely my favorite event to participate in every year. So I love the Family Cafe. And if they want to get involved, if they want to volunteer, or they can find that information out, or do they need to call your office, or if there's other families that or groups that want to get involved or participate and volunteer, how do they get to do that?
Oh, well, it's definitely easy to get a hold of us. The first thing you might want to do is if you go look at our website, familycafe.net, there's a volunteer button right there on the top. It's also the way to make any kind of financial contribution like to support our work. And, of course, it's also the place to register for the 19th Annual Family Cafe, too. So that's scheduled for June 16th through 18th. And if you do decide you want to attend, you have an opportunity to volunteer to help out at the event. We rely really heavily on a lot of generous volunteers that help us out every year. As you might imagine, with a staff of 5 people and, a 3-day event that has as many as 10,000 people registered, it takes a lot of volunteer effort to make things happen when you're there on site. So we ask people to help with the registration desk, to be room monitors, helping out our presenters during the day, help us put all the conference materials together on the Thursday evening before we get started. So we always welcome community support, community involvement, and whatever volunteer contributions people are able to give to us.
That is awesome. So tell us a little bit about what qualifies a person to be able to come to this conference, or is it just open to anybody? Because, when people think of a disability, they just think of like if you have, like the placard that goes in your car window, or, what qualifies people to be able to come to this?
Well, that's actually a great question. I'm glad you asked it, because the short answer is our door is open to everybody. So the event is free, and there's no process whereby you need to qualify to attend. If you're a person with a disability or a family member of a person with a disability, all you need to do is register for the event and show up. There's no barrier. There's no test. You don't have to somehow vouch for the fact that you fit into a certain category or don't. Yeah. We have an open door policy. The one thing we do, we have a number of attendees who are professionals. So if you're a professional, you are asked to pay a registration fee. But if you are a person with a disability or the family member thereof, you can just walk right in. And the other thing, in terms of thinking about, do I qualify or not for this event, we do, as I mentioned earlier, provide some financial assistance. So while there's no registration fee, the event is hosted at a hotel each year, and it's always a challenge to find one that is big enough to fit us. We're at the Hyatt Regency Orlando this year, so we make some funding available to people to stay there on site at the event at no cost to them. And if you're interested in that, you just mark the appropriate box when you register, and then you get selected through a lottery process. Now, the only catch there is that you have to live in Florida in order to qualify for that. So as long as you're a person from Florida with a disability or one of their family members, you are able to get access to everything we have to offer.
Wow, and that sure is a lot of information. I mean, we've been coming there, like I said, for the past 4 years. This is going to be our 5th year, and, it's so many different classes and breakout sessions and speakers, and you really have to go through your agenda to figure which one am I going to go to, then I got to be there at this one, and then if you have somebody with you, then you can try to say, you go to this one, I'm going to go to this one, then we're going to come back and meet up, and then we'll go over our notes and what we learned, and it's so awesome. But last year I got to be a presenter, and I am this year as well, and I love that. I'm going to be presenting on living your life outside the box, and I just think that that's an awesome opportunity too that you guys give people that are knowledgeable and that have some experience or expertise in the field to be able to train these, to teach on some subjects that they're familiar with. And so definitely we're familiar with living life outside the box.
That's for sure. I think most people on hand at the event are familiar with that.
Yes. And so we love the fact that we're able to.
We left that box behind a long time ago.
Sure did. And listen, then we don't want it back either. It's our life is so fun now.
You got to keep things interesting.
Sure does. So we just love the fact that we get to be presenters there as well, and just to be a part of such an amazing event. I just love it so much. And tell them how can they get to be presenters. I know the deadline ended for this year, but they just need to stay in touch with and stay visiting your website, right? Just so they can know what's going on.
The event is hosted in June, as I mentioned, so we normally have all of our presentations selected around the end of January. But you're right, it is a great opportunity for us to sort of give a platform to such a rich range of expertise. So we have our planning committee come together, and they go through the presentation proposals here in a full-day meeting in our office. And one of the things that we've adopted just, several years back, we decided, hey, it might be helpful for a family who is dealing with a specific area or a specific need to say, I can easily identify these particular things going on at the annual family cafe that are relevant to me. So we have some sessions that are in what we call tracks. Mm-hmm. So, for example, last year we had one on self-advocacy. We had a youth track that was, for transition-age youth, learning about going from the child to adult systems.
Wow.
We had an adaptive recreation track, an employment track. We have a group of sessions we call Smart Money that are all about, estate planning, financial planning, special needs, trusts, those kinds of issues.
Yep, I've been to that class.
A mental health track, as I mentioned, because we're trying to bring the mental health community into the larger cross-disability conversation. We have a track especially for military families, because often they face unique challenges in terms of having a different type of health insurance, having TRICARE, also the fact that they often need to relocate on a regular basis and trying to access the systems, their local community when they're moving around so much. Mm-hmm. We have a track that's just for birth through age 5 families, so those are the people who, were getting ready to have a kid, and then all of a sudden they were cast into this disability world with no prior warning or preparation, so it's kind of an opportunity to help those families get started on that journey. And then the other one we have, which I think is really important to Floridians, is a disaster preparedness track, because as you know, if you are an individual with disability, sometimes you require special planning around disaster preparedness, especially if your disability is related to mobility or if you have a need for some sort of special health care service or particular medications you have to have access to. So it's cool because families could go in there and say, I'm really concerned about these financial issues, they can just find sessions that are marked Smart Money and just go to those.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that we've done, and that I'm kind of proud of, I'm going to brag for a moment about it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we have a smartphone app for the event, too. So as opposed to just getting a program on a piece of paper where you got to read through 100 pages and figure out what's going on, if you come to the conference and you use the app, you can actually create your own custom schedule and say, oh, at 1:30, I want to go to this session, and at 3 o'clock, I want to go to that session. Then you have the whole thing laid out for you there, and it's nice and easy.
That's awesome. That's kind of like what they have at Disney World with Mickey.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
You guys have done that. That's great.
Yeah, as people are sort of getting away from paper and have their faces in their phones 90% of the time, you figure you got to find them where they're looking, right? So
right.
It is good, though, because it's dynamic, and it makes it easier to kind of keep track of where you're going, and there's a map in there as well. So when you get to the Hyatt and you're trying to figure out where a room is, it'll help you do that as well. So, whatever we can do to make things easier for people, make it easier for them to get connected with the information they're looking for, that's something that we're interested in doing.
Yeah, and one other thing I want to say, too, about you guys brought it right there firsthand with the Able United. I thought that was a great, great class last year. With bringing them right there to talk about how we're going to be able to save now for our families with children, or families with disabilities, that they can actually save, put them in position to save money. And I thought that was great too.
Yeah, that was good. Able United, for those people who are not familiar with it, that's a new program that's been set up here in Florida. It was created in statute, actually. It was a federally created program. And what it allows you to do is to save money in a tax-free account for your individual with a disability. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like a disability 401k or something along those lines. So one of the reasons it's really helpful to people is, as many of your listeners might know from firsthand experience, when you're on something like Social Security disability insurance, if you go beyond a certain amount of assets or a certain amount of income, that's a threat to your eligibility to stay in that program. What this ABLE program does, it allows you to put money into this savings and investment vehicle where it won't count against some of those eligibility requirements for other social service programs. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it is. You guys just really leave no stone unturned. You guys are so amazing. You are helping families all over the state to be able to win. And so we are excited. I'm going to let you guys go ahead. We're listening now to Talking with Jeremy, and we're going to come right back with you. And just about 3 minutes, you guys are going to hear this song. It's called Win. And I wrote this for my son because it took him 18 months to learn how to put something in a container, but he's still winning. Thanks so much for listening. Stay tuned.
Are you ready to win? I am. So ready. Are you ready to win? I am. So ready. Are you ready to win? I am. So ready. So let's jump for joy, turn around and spin. Get ready to win.
you guys. That's my newest single called Win by Staar Fields. Make sure you look it up on iTunes or Amazon, you guys. I'm excited. We are winning, and we're showing other families how they can win as well. We're so excited to have Jeremy on from the Family Cafe. Jeremy, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon to share with us all this wonderful information.
My pleasure. Thanks very much for having me.
Yes, this is so awesome. I'm just loving talking to you and just getting more information than I've had before. So excited about it. And we only have about 9 minutes left, but I want to make sure that we go over how you guys go about picking your theme every year, because that's always interesting to me. How do y'all go about picking your theme?
Well, that's a great question. Let me think. It's kind of a little bit of a challenge. You sit down at the beginning of the process and ask ourselves, what's going on this year, what's important, what's different. Sometimes it's easy. If it's our 10th annual Family Cafe, you have a really simple 10th anniversary. You don't have to think too much about it. Then other times, you do have to think about it. Like, for example, last year it was the 18th annual Family Cafe. And, of course, it was an election year at the same time. Mm-hmm. So we thought, hey, we're turning 18 as an organization, which means we're old enough to vote.
Yes.
And people are going to be talking about this election coming up this November. Let's talk about disability voting and the fact that people with disabilities should be out there making their voices heard and participating in our political process. So that's one of those situations where we came up with an angle that we thought made sense for what was going on in the world around us.
It did.
Sure. So
and
that's part of our thinking as well.
And it was such a beautiful, the all the decorations and the whole setup, the stage and everything. It was just grand. It was just a beautiful setup. You guys
we had a really
awesome
good stage setting company there that did us a little miniature White House right there on the stage. That was cool.
It was.
And, along those lines, one of the things I think it's important to mention in these few minutes we have left is that we also really believe that it's important for individuals with disabilities and their families to make their voices heard in the political and policy-making processes here in our state and nationally. Every year at the conference we have an event called the Governor Summit on Disabilities. Mm-hmm. Most years, regardless of who the governor has been, going all the way back to the beginning of Jeb Bush's terms, we've had the governor come and, share his vision for the state in terms of disability services. And we also have a number of agency heads whose organizations serve people with disabilities on hand to, have a conversation, to hear what the concerns and challenges are for their constituents that have disabilities, and also for our attendees to hear firsthand from those policymakers about what they're thinking. I think when you're a person with a disability, oftentimes some of these public policies can really impact your life in a meaningful way, in the way they might not for a person who is typically abled. So it's doubly important for people with disabilities to be engaged in that process, know who their representatives are, feel comfortable contacting the agencies that serve them, and really staying attuned and engaged in the entire process of the state, the country, their local government deciding what their policy is going to be regarding people with disabilities.
That's amazing, and it's so great to be able to put a face with the name, and to be able to meet these people firsthand. We've gotten to meet Dr. Barbara Palmer and, Governor Rick Scott, these different governors, and also Dan Marino, who we've got to meet.
That's right.
It's just, you guys y'all just really don't leave any stone unturned. I cannot say that enough. We've gotten to meet people and just talk to people. Senator Galveston, I think his name is. Just all these wonderful, amazing people that are there, right there, showing that they care, showing their support year after year for the Family Cafe, and showing that they really care about families and children and people with disabilities, that we're not forgotten, and I think a lot of times sometimes it can feel like we're forgotten, like nobody cares, but we're not forgotten. There's people in place to help. So I just think that that's amazing. It
is. And as I mentioned earlier, when you're there and you see so many people with disabilities and families together in one spot, it gives you a different perspective on what that disability community looks like. You know, it's a community that I think is hidden in some ways because it's something that affects a lot of people. You know, there's very small chance if you go up to somebody on the street and you ask them if they have a relationship to somebody with a disability in their family that they're going to say no.
Right.
You know? Especially when you think of disability as including everything from, you know, the physical challenges of an elderly person navigating their house to, you know, a child with one of the more familiar diagnoses you might think about, like cerebral palsy or autism or Down syndrome, or, you know, a person in your workplace or one of your friends who, you know, has some type of mental health issue that they deal with on a daily basis, you know, stress, anxiety, depression, some of those things that you don't see, you know, aren't visible when you're walking down the street. When you account for all those people, you realize, wow, this is a really substantial community. And it's our belief that it was going to benefit everybody and benefit society together when there's a solidarity within that community and when there's a greater recognition that, hey, this is a thread that ties together all of our human experiences, and it's essential that everybody has the same chance to participate in society and live a fulfilling life regardless of what their disability status is.
That's right, Jeremy. And I always say we've got to get, you know, with having a son that's 9 years old, we really try hard to take him out into the community as much as possible. And we even tried to bring him to the radio station today, which was an epic fail almost. We had to go take him to the break room real quick, so that's why you guys don't hear Pastor Dab. But
well, I was hoping he was going to ask you some questions.
I was hoping the same thing, Jeremy. I can't wait for him to ask you a question. But just, you know, having a son that's 9 years old, we are very, very, very adamant about getting him out in the community, even though sometimes he's louder or whatever. But my saying is we've got to get our kids used to being out in the community. Because those kids are going to turn into adults, and then we've got to get the community used to being around. And if you want to find
a friendly environment to practice doing just that, the Family Cafe, our annual Family Cafe is really the perfect place.
It sure is. No judgmental people, no ugly stares. You know, everybody's so loving and kind.
You're not going to be the only person whose kid is, you know, behaving in an atypical fashion.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the norm in our environment.
It's the norm. And so we just, you know, it's just so awesome. I mean, we could go on and on and on today. I wish, tell everybody, we have 2 minutes before we have to end our show, but I want you to tell everybody how they can find you, how they can volunteer. Make sure that they have your website and know these registration dates so that they can get registered for this year.
Yes, definitely. I'm more than happy to do that. Again, you can find us online at familycafe.net, and our registration is currently open. The event itself is held June 16th through 18th, so about 4 months. You got plenty of time to plan. If you want to contact our office, you can call us toll-free at 888-309-CAFE, which is 888-309-2233. And you can also reach us by email if you want to send us an email to info@familycafe.net. But really the easiest thing to do is to go online. You can, you know, find out what happened at the conference in previous years. You can find out what is going to be happening this year. You can register. You can apply for financial assistance. And you can also, you know, learn about some of the other programs that we have going on here at our organization that we didn't even have time to squeeze into this hour.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought that hour would have went so fast?
I know.
Went so fast.
It was quick.
But we're going to have you back on again, Jeremy, since we do have 4 months. So maybe we can have you guys on again next month if you wouldn't mind coming back on, and we can share more information about the Family Cafe and everything that you guys are doing to help these families and children with disabilities.
That would be great.
Awesome. I am so excited to have you. Thank you so much. Tell everyone at the Family Cafe office that Star says hello, hello, hello.
Well, you know I will.
And we cannot wait to see you guys in June.
You've been listening to Ready to Win. turning disabilities into unique abilities. An empowered hour to help you and your child with special needs. You're encouraged to get involved in our local special needs community. Learn more at giveawayfoundation.org. That's giveawayfoundation.org. And remember, you're always equipped to win.